Hi there. My name is Keith, and if you're like me, you have looked at your horoscope in newspapers and online, and you've read them. For me, my sun sign is Leo in Western astrology. I look at that, I read the description, and I say, that kind of feels a little bit like me, but it seems a little bit off and a little bit generic. And I didn't know why. I didn't know why I was reading this, and I didn't fully understand and felt that it really represented me, unlike a lot of other people who very strongly follow their horoscope and feel that it really clearly identifies who they are. So for me, and probably you, while you're watching this, because you're watching this, feel that it's a little bit off, right? So I decided I wanted to do a little bit of an investigation as to why that was happening, right? So what I found out is there's actually two major astrological systems. There's Indian sidereal, and then there's Western, right? Here in the United States and Western Europe, we use mostly Western astrology, all right? It's called the tropical zodiac. This was founded in 200 AD in ancient Greece, and this has this has been used ever since then. At that point when it was founded and when it was used in 200 AD, the Indian zodiac and the Western zodiac were actually at the same point in time, right? Uh, the difference now between the two zodiacs is the Western astrology has stayed fixed to where it was roughly around 200 AD, while the sidereal zodiac actually does make shifts that happen to the planet every 70 years, give or take. The planet shifts 1 degree. We go 1 degree back. Uh, so it's like essentially like a whole nother day, right? While the Western system doesn't account for that. And while this was fine in ancient Greece, right? I'm sorry, well, this is fine at 200 AD. Now in 2021, it's been we're roughly like 26 or 27 degrees off. So that difference of 26 to 27 degrees is the biggest difference between the sidereal and the tropical zodiacs, right? So Western astrology, it starts at 0 Aries, which is the beginning of spring, all right? And how in the West we define the beginning of spring like around March 22nd or so, right? And that's the beginning of the year, and that roughly doesn't change too much, right? In Indian astrology, every 70 years it goes back a day, a day, a day, right? So now it's quite a few days, like 20 or 23 days off, roughly, right, from where the Western zodiac is. So that's the biggest difference, right? So for me, and I'll share with you in a second, I found that my sun sign, which I thought because my birthday is August 9th, is Leo. Come to find out, it's more on the cusp of Cancer and Leo, which really, really, really identifies who I am, right? I definitely have more of that Cancer, more Moon in my horoscope than just that very, very bold Leo only. Um, so for the signs in uh, Indian astrology really focuses on the moon and the ascendant. But let's start just with the moon. The moon as really the focus of the astrological chart, right? The moon really represents who you are in your soul, your inner you, right? And it's seen as like the focal point of your horoscope, right? Well, in Western astrology, as most of you know, it's the sun sign, right? So again, Indian astrology based on moon, Western based on the sun. And it's interesting why. So the sun sign, right, or sun, which is considered a planet in both zodiacs, the sun is very bright, right? It's so bright that you can't even see it in the sky, right? And it actually burns you, right? When it hits your skin. That's the outer you. That's considered the outer you, right? What other people see of you. But really, what counts the most is the moon. The moon is, you can look at the moon at night, right? And that represents your inner soul, what you're thinking inside. So that's more of a true projection of you in Indian astrology, right? Rather the sun, that's the external view of you. But we can't, if we're constantly in the sun, we burn up, right? So It's not sustainable. So that's one reason why in Indian astrology it focuses on the moon rather than the sun. I'm sure that you could ask another astrologer and they might say it more eloquently, but in a nutshell, that's kind of the biggest difference between Indian and Western astrology in terms of the planets. And actually, speaking of the rest of the planets, in Indian astrology, this was founded around 300 BC, right? So there's 7 major planets, which include the sun and the moon, right? And then we have Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Notice that Earth is not one of the planets, right? Because we are the center of the universe, speak to ourselves, right? We live on planet Earth, so everything we see is through our perspective of planet Earth, right? In Western astrology, it's the same planet that we have in Indian astrology, just we also include Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto in there. And these were used in Western astrology because at this point we did have telescopes and we could see actually these other planets in the sky, right? Rather when Indian astrology, more of a classical form of astrology, was founded, those were not visible by the naked eye, so were not included in Indian astrology. So going back to what I was saying, my birthday is August 9th, and this is what I see when I look at my horoscope. I see Leo, July 23rd to August 22nd, and this is me. Leos are bold, warm, loving, da 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 da. And this is partially true of me, right? I definitely feel that this is valid of me, but because my birthday is August 9th, this is till August 22nd. In the Western astrology, it shows that I'm more in the middle of Leo, right? However, I definitely felt that there's more of like my inner side, my inner self, definitely a bit more kind of reflects who I am as a sun sign. My inner self I show externally, right? That's just a big part of me, where I'm very open and I share my feelings. Rather, this is not a typical characteristic of a Leo, right? Yeah, a Leo is very extroverted. I share my introversion as an extroversion, if that makes sense. And so that's what I mean. When I read this, Ultimate Showman, not so much, right? But I loosely identify with it, right? So this is why I started reading this and why I realized I just don't really agree with what I'm reading here for my horoscope. Now, when I actually do look at the astronomy, right, this is the day that I was born and the location I was born and the time I was born. And you see here, I have the sun was at this part of the sky, right, when I was born, and it's in the Cancer. It's actually on the cusp of Cancer and Leo constellations, right? And then when I actually look at my Indian astrology, it shows me this. It shows me that my sun sign is on the cusp, but in Cancer, right? So for me, and just in general, Indian astrology is a lot more related to actual astronomy, right? The actual location of the stars. And Western astrology used to be, right, in 200 AD, they were very similar systems, but now as it's gone 1 degree off every 70 years, it keeps on getting more and more distant from where it used to be. So just in case you're interested, taking a quick look at an astrology chart from Walt Disney. This is an Indian chart, so it looks Northern Indian chart. It looks a bit different from the Western charts that you see, the circular shape, but really they're just different shapes. I mean, essentially, there's a lot of similarities in terms of how things are presented. Kind of, you just need to learn what that is. But then when you look at this, the planets have been adjusted based on the sidereal zodiac, not the tropical, right? So if we look here, you see that here in the first house, which is where I have these two red signs, you see 6 and you see MO, which is moon, right? So for 6, that represents the sign. So the number 6 is the 6th sign, right, which is Virgo, right? So if we go Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, right? So this is called the Virgo ascendant, as this is the first house. This is the house that is when the sun rises in the east, this is the house that's there. So Virgo is where Virgo is where the sun risen on the when Walt Disney was born, right? And interesting, at that point too, the moon was at that location too. So with this, what the saying is, in that first house, it was in Virgo, right, when the sun was rising, and the moon was there as well. So this means, Walt Disney, and just a Virgo is someone who is in some ways kind of the opposite of Leos, right? They are very reserved. They held back. They lead from behind, right? And they're very focused on kind of precision, right? And making sure that their ultimate vision is being executed to the dime of how they see it, right? And the moon sign just kind of further articulates that on how, on how he really used more of his intuitive powers and his behind the scene powers to really be driving his mission forward. Now, this is just looking at this first house here. Obviously, there's 12 houses, right? So there's 11 more. And you can see that there's other interesting planets and stuff here. But this is just to give you a sense of what the differences are between the sidereal and the tropical zodiac. And yeah, in my opinion, I have found a lot more relation, and it makes a lot more sense when I look at the Indian astrology. So I've actually started studying Indian astrology pretty seriously with a Yotishi, which is a teacher, a guru in India. So I'm studying now with a doctor. They're considered doctors in India who specialize in this. So you'll be seeing more videos and more things of me sharing my knowledge and hopefully helping you also just get more interested and excited about Indian astrology and finding a bit more connections and relations to what we're doing in the West and seeing how we can migrate over to what has been very tried and true in Indian traditions as well. Okay, awesome. Thank you. And please write in comments, in the comments under this video. And also please subscribe to my page at The Intuitive Guide. Great. Thank you. Bye.